Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District 116 Board of Education at 7:05 p.m. on April the 18th, 2022 from the Round Lake High School Media Center. If I can, just as a note for everyone, we do have one member of the board who is attending virtually and will be the voice from above. So we will get going there, and let's start with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
All right, we do have a roll call, and thank you. And members of the board, please remember to make sure that you push down and hold your microphone, because without it, there is no way that Annette will be able to hear anything. All right, next up is our Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up we have our meeting agenda, which has been published. Anyone have any questions in regards to that? With not hearing any, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
And we have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognition and presentations. And let's start with the Student Technology Achievement Award.
Good evening. I'd like to bring up Kelly DeBuff. She is one of our phenomenal educational life skills teachers, teaching first and second grade at RLAS.
Can everyone hear me? All right. I feel super privileged to be able to introduce this family. I've actually been with him 3 years in the classroom now because he came to me as a kindergartner when we trialed a little special program. So I have watched him. If you can imagine having your child, okay, have almost no verbal language, none. No way to communicate except gesturing. Just imagine that for a minute and let that sink in. When you get to see him and hear where he's at now, this all was because of AAC put in place and these parents. Through COVID, when we were online learning, it was extremely difficult for the ELS classrooms, if I'll be very honest. And his dad jumped right in. We cheers with our coffee every morning, and he got right into it. And he pushes Willie, and they're there for him, and they support him. And I am so proud that he has won this award. It's a very awesome accomplishment. So, Valdez family and Willie Valdez, come on up. This is Willie. Can you say hi? Say, how are you? Say, how are you?
Hi.
How are you?
How are you? Hi. You.
I am good.
Cool.
Good, thank you. And Mr. Valdez, if you want to say hi to everybody.
Hi, my name is Eric Valdez. I just want to say there is no words to say thank you very much for all the work they do, like the teachers and everybody is working together to these things happen, because since the beginning it was kind of hard to communicate with my son. We really thought that he will never say a single word, but after all this hard work from the teachers and everybody whoever is participating in these really awesome programs, thanks to everybody. There is no words to say. Thank you very much because you guys make it happen. You know, it makes happens that kids like my son. It's something like really hard for us seeing a kid like cannot communicate, but after all these years and all this teamwork between you and us, I mean, you make it possible, and thank you very much. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right. Next up, we've got our Silent Servant Award.
Dr. Mendoza, members of the board, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing three phenomenal students at Round Lake High School. A little bit about the award. This is the Silent Servant Award. It's put together by the Peter Marsh Foundation. In addition, and they'll show you these really cool crystal awards that they got $500 from the foundation each. Probably already spent it already, right? So again, it's a fantastic organization. This is the second year that we've done this, participated in this, and we've been fortunate to have and be able to recognize three individuals. So I'm going to read their nominating letters from their counselors so you get an idea of just how cool these kids are. We'll start with Gisela, and this is from her counselor, Kelly Schneider. Throughout the years, I have seen Gisela grow into a motivated young adult with her drive to succeed. Gisela is committed to her school and her community, despite her busy schedule. When Gisela is not helping to lead underclassmen as a Panther crew leader, she can be found volunteering her time to many different organizations. Sin Youth is an organization where Gisela was able to teach English to a 10-year-old boy from Peru. In addition to teaching, Gisela also managed the social media for Sin Youth. Gisela has worked as a peer tutor for physics students, and she has helped to spread awareness for autism through the Love Michael campaign. Gisela has had many leadership roles at Round Lake High School. As the Vice President of Student Council, Gisela has been persistent in preparing for school events and cultivating a school and community spirit. Gisela is an elected member of the National Honor Society, and through this society, she has volunteered her time at Feed My Starving Children and has volunteered her time helping families at our FAFSA events. Furthermore, Gisela is a college ambassador, and she helps promote events that aim to help students make the journey from high school to college. It is for these reasons and many more that Gisela is most deserving of the Silent Servant Award. Gisela Uribe. Next up, we have Morgan Robinson, and this is from her counselor, Panina Noonan. I've had the opportunity to getting to know Morgan Robinson over the past 4 years as a student at Round Lake High School within my capacity as a school counselor. Morgan has been an active volunteer at the First Baptist Church of North Chicago over the last 4 years of high school, spending her time as an usher during Saturday and Sunday events to help her church. 2 Saturdays a month after their church service, she volunteers her time at other churches, traveling from Lake County to the city of Chicago to support other congregations. Every Sunday, she ushers at her church services and assists in any way she can. Over the last couple of months, due to the COVID pandemic, services have been held over Zoom. She still serves her community by checking in on the elderly members of the congregation and her friends. She takes it upon herself to reach out to them to make sure they are okay and have everything that they need. In addition to all of this, once a year she serves food during the tea banquet at the church to help raise money for the community, and 2 times a year she attends Feed My Starving Children, packing meals for children in low-income countries. Morgan wants to give back, and she has already started to make a difference in her community. She is certainly deserving of the Silent Service Award, and that is Morgan Robinson. And over on the end, we have Axel Garcia. And this is from both Anna Rodriguez from Trio, as well as Miss Juarez, his counselor. We can have a better community by volunteering our time and talents at the library, schools, and other community service institutions, says Axel Garcia. By volunteering, Axel has slowly made a positive impact in his community. In March of 2021, Axel received an award from the Round Lake Area Public Library as a teen volunteer with the most hours worked. He was able to contribute 100 hours of volunteer service to his local library. Axel has been volunteering for more than 5 years as a teacher's aide in the catechism program at his local church, St. Joseph's. During his time volunteering, he has contributed to the planning, organization, and implementation of religious education classes for approximately 20 children. Axel has been a regular volunteer over the last 5 years at the Bilingual Parents Advisory Committee, BPAC, programs and events. His tasks have included greeting families, help with setup and cleanup, as well as print handbooks and distribute flyers. Axel is one of a kind. Axel is certainly deserving of the Silent Service Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Axel Garcia.
All right, next up we have our March Athletes of the Month.
Good evening, everybody. We have our male and female athletes of the month here with us. And up first, I would like to welcome Coach Kevin Brady to recognize our male athlete of the month.
All right, so this is JB. We've had a start of a indoor track season, and he's had a great season so far. Outdoor track, well, it's snowing outside, so that's not so good. But indoor track, he's had a great season. He was the conference champion for the 400 this year for the indoor conference with a time of 51.8, which puts him it was his personal best time. Also, the track team keeps a record of like the top 5 performance that puts him 4th place all time in Round Lake School history, which is fantastic. And that's an indoor time, so it's a shorter track, so it's harder to run that fast on those tracks. So it's more impressive that way. Most of the times that were top 5s in the past have always been outdoor near the end of the season. So he's already achieved that so far in indoor, so that's great. He's one of the only people we've ever had. I think the list is maybe 3 or 4 kids. We went to the indoor top times meet, which is like an unofficial state meet for the indoor track season, held in Illinois Wesleyan University. He placed 11th out of everybody. So that was really cool to have that experience for him. It's a big meet that it's invite only. You have to kind of qualify for it. So it's a little bit different than the state meet down in Eastern, but we're hoping that's where he's going to end up at the end of the season. He's poised really well so far this year. He's having a great season. Unfortunately, we can't be outside more because it's 30 degrees. But that's JB, and he's our male athlete of the month. Sorry, females next.
And to present our female athlete of the month, I'd like to present Coach Kristen Little.
Hi, everybody. Brady already stole all my weather jokes, so I got nothing. No fresh material, sorry. So I went to Caitlin DiNapoli as our female athlete of the month. Senior, first year doing track and field, and is blazing through our top 5 too. She's now in the top 5 for the 100 meter, the 200 meter, and the 400 meter. Also got to go to top times, so we got to go with both these kids. To Illinois Wesleyan, she placed 13th in the state of Illinois in the 400 meter, which, if you know that race, is just a terrible sprint to your death. And she does it really fast and really well. So we're happy to have her. And again, same thing, looking forward to see what she can do as we get outside, stretch her out a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get to bring her downstate this year. So female athlete for March, Caitlin DiNapoli.
All right, well, now that all the excitement is done and the room is rather quickly clearing out, we will now move on to communications to the board. And first up is in this is the assistive technology in the classroom.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Mari, the very proud Director of Special Education for Round Lake Area Schools. I'm here to introduce two amazing colleagues of mine that have come up with innovative programming and have worked diligently to bring students some of the services that we need for our kiddos. So Dr. Jasenia Jimenez Captain is the elementary coordinator, and Miss Amy Maplethorpe is the speech and language pathologist from RLAS Elementary. So come on up.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am just so proud to introduce Round Lake Assistive Technology Team. This has been 6 years in the making and it's finally come to fruition, and it's so exciting for our district. And do I hit? Okay. All right, so here are our members of the assistive tech team. We have 2 occupational therapists, we have 2 special education teachers, 4 speech language pathologists, 1 physical therapist, and a special education administrator. These individuals will help students access assistive technology and AAC throughout the district from early childhood to the transition program. With that said, each of these members come with AT or AAC experience, endorsements, degrees, so we are ready for this challenge. So what is assistive technology? We have no tech, low tech, mid tech, and high tech needs. Our no tech involves special devices or equipment, but it's more like accommodation. It doesn't require any special power or tools to access curriculum. So we look at pencil grips, we look at colored paper, maybe extra time for testing. So again, accommodations. For low tech, this incorporates more simple devices, but does not still require a power source. So more adaptive equipments. We're looking here at handheld spoons, other devices for students to be able to continue their curriculum work, but yet have adaptive tools to be successful with it. Next is our mid-tech. This is where we have more complicated devices. It may require a power source, but it's not a sophisticated system. So these are more like your adaptive keyboards, a manual wheelchair, talking calculators, and finally, our high tech. Our high tech needs are more computer-based systems that are sophisticated and do require extensive training, knowledge, and support. These are more your eye gaze systems or your AAC, alternative augmentative communication systems, where you have seen that we've ordered iPads with different programs that I'll allow Amy to speak to.
So what is augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC? It really refers to any form of communication that is not speech. So this includes our body language, gesturing, pointing and exchanging pictures. It also includes sign language, written messages, so your text messaging could be a form of AAC, as well as speech generating devices. So, correct. If you're texting or writing an email, that would be considered high-tech.
So is our microphone. So is the microphone.
So who benefits from AAC? Anyone of any age whose speech output is not adequate for communication or the ability to communicate wants, needs, and ideas. So think conditions like autism spectrum disorder, which is related to brain development and impacts communication, socialization with others, and overall impact social interaction and communication. childhood apraxia of speech. This is when a child's brain has difficulty coordinating the complex oral movements for speech needed to create sounds into syllables, syllables into words, and words into phrases. Craniofacial anomalies, that could be something like cleft lip and palate. So a child's head and facial bones or structures have malformed in a way, usually in utero. Down syndrome, that's a genetic disorder caused by a chromosomal error within the DNA. CVA or stroke. This may be dependent on where the lesion is within the brain and how that impacts communication, as well as traumatic brain injury. So if a child or young adult is in a car accident, that could impact communication as well. So, board, I brought some various communication devices for you guys to look at, things that the district has provided students from pre-K through transition center. If you guys would give me a moment, I'll pass them around for you all to see. We have everything from low tech to high tech, as Jasenia went over. Low tech doesn't have any technology behind it. Mid tech is usually battery operated, and then that high tech is dynamic.
You can tell the board really enjoys toys.
Tech device can give us, but the high tech device, they're just not quite there yet. So
I don't know. The low tech and mid tech is pretty fun too. Let's not kid ourselves. But you got to remember, I grew up in the era of like doing surgeries and little magnetic things. So.
So board, as you're looking at those devices, I just want to say these devices are not one size fits all. So what that means is what may work for a student like Willie who uses touch chat might not work for another student. It's also a trialing process. What could be seen as successful one week, the child might come back after a spring break and it's starting from square one again. So it's nice to have this library, a whole array of various technology available to trial with students to determine what is best for them.
Does also rotating it around, so having the variety of it, being able to rotate it keeps it fresh and keeps it working as well?
So, yes, having that available and that rotation is great. However, we don't want to take away a device too early. We want to make sure that, this assessment with the data is showing that this device isn't proving to be beneficial to enhance that communication for that student. And so we always want to supplement for something else. Like I said, you saw so many that maybe the low tech a student isn't showing success with, but you give them that iPad with the various applications and they're a whiz at it. Would anybody like to share what they like the most?
Remember, our microphones are assistive adaptive technology.
I was enjoying the one that he kept. Yeah, it was making me laugh. I love this idea though. I think it's such a cool way to teach them to communicate. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
And I can say that the book that went around first, the low adaptive, it reminds me of the pain scale we use in the hospital. The smiley faces and how we're feeling.
My stepbrother is 45, and he is nonverbal. And he had one of those adaptive, I don't remember what it was called back then, but it's really cool to see how it is evolved, and being able to have that now is really sweet.
He might have had the dinosaur Dynavox.
And being older brothers, we would of course mess with him with it, right? But still.
Thank you for sharing. So we have our lovely friend Willie here using his AAC device within the classroom. His specific system is Touch Chat. I hope the video will play. I-T-E. Yes, fly a kite. Good job, Willie. Bravo. So one of the units that they work on in the ELS classroom is from curriculum called STAR, and this month's theme is spring. And so we're working on spring vocabulary, and Willie really enjoys typing on his iPad. And so he was typing out the vocabulary word fly a kite because he was having trouble finding the word kite in his device, but he knows to go to the keyboard and he can spell it out. It also has word prediction within that system, which he is starting to use today. We were reading a story about aliens and he started typing in alien because under the space group, it does not have aliens, unfortunately.
See, he's having trouble with that, and we're having trouble finding spring. So there you go.
So obviously, AAC really impacts the academic setting and plays a huge part not only within our self-contained special education classrooms, but also our general education classrooms. So in the general education setting, AAC system can support with communication breakdowns. I can speak from experience. I work with a student with a repaired cleft lip and palate, and his speech intelligibility is significantly decreased for individuals who are unfamiliar listeners or who don't know him. He has a communication system built into his one-to-one device. We were able to put Touch Chat on his iPad, and he uses that to communicate with his peers. He even uses it with his special education resource teacher to work on word pronunciation, letter sound knowledge, and building spelling and reading, things like that. And obviously increasing those social interactions with peers, especially at recess time, so his ideas and wants and needs can be expressed. Similarly, in the instructional classroom, the AAC device can support communication breakdown. So if the child is having a difficult time expressing what they want to say, that's when they might take out some form of AAC to support what their verbal language cannot express at that time. Also, within the instructional classroom, it helps students expand their utterances or putting more words together to communicate, and increases vocabulary knowledge, express wants and needs and feelings, and increasing social interactions with peers. And then finally, in that educational life skills classroom, as what has been previously stated, those areas can be supported by AAC and ELS, but more importantly, establishing a functional way to communicate. As we heard from Mr. Valdez and Mrs. DeBuff, Willie came to us with little to no verbal language, and now he's a rock star both verbally and with his AAC system. And those are just some examples of AAC in the classroom. And there's our lovely Willie. So we really wanted to recognize him today because he did win the one of the recipients of the 2022 Outstanding Student Technology Awards on behalf of Infinitec North Assistive Technology Coalition for just showing exemplary performance with some form of AAC. He gets to go to a banquet next week, eat some yummy food, get recognized with other individuals from Northern Illinois who have also achieved this award.
Okay, a couple of things too to keep in mind. Those devices, any voice output can be programmed in more than one language for students, so critical for language learners. The other thing that you had mentioned was our phones being assistive tech. And so I've been in assistive tech for a long time, and touch windows, text to speech, all those features were assistive tech before they came into the main media and platforms that you see today. So almost everything that makes your life more comfortable was assistive technology for our students with special needs. So with that said, what are our future needs? So we would love to establish a lending library within Round Lake. As Amy mentioned, one size does not fit all. So we do need more tools to explore with the different students from early childhood to transition to make sure that the devices that are selected and trialed and become a dedicated device for a student is what they need for the rest of their lives. Assistive tech toolkits for different classrooms, first for the educational life skills. As we know, those classrooms require more functional use, so those type of needs are going to be a little bit different than what we need in the instructional classrooms, where it's still more academic based. And lastly, in the gen ed setting, having those reading and writing assistive tech programs for word prediction, for being able to text to speech, speech to text, again, accessing the curriculum fully to their best needs. So for us, our RLAS assistive tech team, the plan really is to move away from CEDAL. For many years, we have used CEDAL, which has been a great resource with assistive technology and their needs, but as you know, that comes with an expense. It's not free. And sometimes it's hours upon hours that we're putting in over years because, again, this is their voice for the rest of their lives. Or, for example, if they're not ambulatory and need a power wheelchair, again, you need a lot of different services for that. Also, IATAP has been great. It's the Illinois Assistive Technology Project, but they select very few candidates through the year. We've been fortunate around Lake because I think we have an amazing speech path and other members at Ellis who have pushed and supported for our students to be recognized and be able to have an assistive tech evaluation. Infinitec has been amazing. They have provided our team 2 full days of training. We're going to continue ongoing training with them once a week. Here throughout the year, we have 2 students that we're currently trialing, one in early childhood, one at the high school. And they are going to do like a learning lab with us to make sure that we're following all the steps that the state has put in for us as the IEP process develops. And I have to thank these 2 teams, informational technology and instructional technology teams in Round Lake, because these past 6 years they have been amazing in helping support this even without the established RLAS team. And now we just keep going forward. So thank you. And finally, any questions?
I just have a compliment. The team, Jasenia, Ms. Maplethorpe, Mr. Buff. I know the last, I don't know, it seems like 3 years has just been ridiculously challenging. I can't even imagine how hard it's been. And I'm just, on behalf of the board and the team, just grateful for your commitment to our kids. I mean, in the end, that's what this is about. And I want to thank the families as well for staying engaged. And I think this has probably been one of my favorite board meetings this year. So just really grateful, just sincerely grateful for your commitment to our children. And, Willie, just, boy, he's so fun to watch. Just, again, the families, just your commitment to help us help him. So just really, really grateful.
All right, next up we've got just let's have an open conversation in regards to 8th grade recognition ceremonies.
Yeah, so I'll just give a little bit of the background. This was brought, we were asked to add this as a future agenda item, so I'm sorry, I'm getting I've got all these things open here. You have the backup information in the packet for you. Dr. Rowling is here to ask questions, to answer questions. 8th grade recognition ceremony is something that we have historically done. You have the background on why we shifted. We've provided additional information for you in terms of what different districts do. There really is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. We're able to do both. We've kind of listed the reasons as to why we feel like more formal attire is appropriate. But in the end, we're just looking for direction from you as a board. Dr. Rowling's here to answer questions. I can answer questions. We're just looking for direction. It's not, level of, I don't know how to say it, but we can make either work, I guess. So, but, we have the background information for your review. And at this time, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Francisco, to facilitate the discussion.
Yeah, so we're definitely not we're not going to do a formal vote or anything, but we want to go around and get an idea. And the majority of the board, let's come up with it. So I think the one idea behind not doing the caps and gowns is quite simple. We have the presentation, the promotion ceremony is going to be at the high school, it's going to be on the same stage as the high school graduation. So we definitely don't want it to feel like it's at the same level of the high school graduation. On the other side of that, having the gowns has been a tradition for the community, and that's a long-standing tradition and one that's easily maintained. So the question would then be, what questions do we have for the administration, and where do we fall? What do we want to do? And Dr. Mendoza has made the comment to me that we have the ability to gather the gowns, and we're doing the gowns would be in the school colors, correct?
So, well, what I can tell you is if at the end of this, we decide to go with them, Herf Jones has indicated that we could in short order them in time for this year. My recommendation is, though, if we go in that direction, that we just order them. The district orders them and pays for them. Part of the challenge we have is, and again, it's not good or bad, it's just the way it goes, distributing the paperwork, collecting them in time, for lack of a better word, continuing to follow up with families about collecting the fees. You know, at the end of the day, you have seen we've not really held any children out. We wouldn't this time. I just think this year, given the timing of it, the easiest thing to do would be for us to just order them. Dr. Rowling, did they say anything about colors when you talked to Herf Jones?
They didn't. We'd have to see what the timelines are to get the school colors, but I could certainly get that information back.
And available inventory, correct?
Correct.
So board conversation, where are we thinking?
I have a few questions to get us started, possibly.
Thank you, please do.
In the memo, it says in 2019, and it lists the reasons. I remember at the graduation or promotion ceremony, when the 8th graders came forward and they didn't have their gowns, I know I wasn't the only board member that was surprised that they didn't have gowns. And we were informed that it was a supply issue, not what's listed in this memo.
I'm sorry.
So was it a supply issue or was it what's listed in this memo?
In 2019, they did wear gowns when we held them last at the middle schools. They did wear gowns that year. It was when we decided in 2021 to host the ceremonies at the stadium, we were not able to get them on time, largely because we didn't really make the decision to do that until later in the spring.
When you say do that, you mean actually have the ceremony. If you remember, we weren't sure we were going to do anything.
Right, so I meant last year, 2021. I guess when did the administration make this executive decision that there would be no gowns? Because there's no caps. They don't wear caps for 8th grade. They wear gowns. That they weren't going to do this year. That it had to become a discussion item on our agenda.
We actually had that discussion in the summer to reduce the costs and for the reasons that we listed in the memo to discontinue the gowns. So I want to say it was June or July when we had that discussion.
Was the board apprised of that? Did I miss a memo?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't instructed to bring a memo forward on that.
So that decision was made. That is, as we've seen, it holds value to the community, and it wasn't discussed with the board or even brought forward.
Yes. So we should have. We made the decision to not do it. We're able to make it work now. That's why we're actually looking for direction from the board.
Well, I'll just speak to how I view it and what I'm hearing and what I see in the community. This community is very generational. We're not a very high transition community. You have parents and then their kids and their kids. So there's a expectation that the community has, and to not have it at least brought to the board, because we're the ones that are going to hear from the community when something like this changes. It's shocking, and then we're hearing in the grocery store, social media, like, what happened? Why is this changing? And we couldn't even answer the community.
I will second what Annette is saying. I'm also hearing it in the community. I have an 8th grader, so I do have my own personal interest in this, and I have 2 children who have already gone through this, and their brother doesn't get it. So that's hard for me. I just assumed that last year was an issue with COVID. Were we gonna have a ceremony? What was it gonna look like? Do we have time? I mean, everything, mitigation measures were up, down, all over the place. So I understood 2021, and 2020 was just a wash for everybody. I just assumed this year we would go back to doing what I've always known there to be. There was no communication that we weren't doing that, and I didn't even know that we weren't doing that until a community member started talking on social media, and the reasons given to parents is different than what I'm hearing tonight. The reasons given via middle school administration.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Somebody shared an email that was sent out by one of the middle school principals and saying that there was no, not going to be a cap, or not, we don't do caps, but there was going to be no gowns at the promotion ceremony because of, it was too big of a financial burden for the parents, and there would be kids who couldn't afford it, and then you'd be calling out the haves and the have-nots. Unfortunately, we would be calling out the haves and the have-nots without gowns. You level the playing field with gowns. This is just one aspect of the issue. Gowns, some families can't afford to go out and buy the fancy clothes that they would need to wear to fit in, or to not fit in, but feel that it was appropriate attire for this event. And as we saw last year, some girls were dressed to the nines, fancy dress, high heels. Some kids went in jeans and sneakers and a t-shirt. That's kind of calling out the haves and the have-nots as well. Also, the girls with dresses, fancy dresses, tend to wear high heels. That's just one. Again, and the second part is tradition. It's really hard when you have siblings, and a lot of our families in this community have siblings, and I know that 6 of the 7 board members here have had children be promoted from 8th grade to high school wearing those gowns. And this ceremony doesn't look anything like the high school. There's not the pomp and circumstances that you get in the high school. It's merely geography. Prior to 2016, the 8th grade recognition ceremony was held at the high school. My oldest son's 8th grade class was the first class to have the ceremony at the middle school. Hot, sweaty, crowded, not COVID compliant. We have this beautiful stadium. We should use it, and I don't think that should hinder them from wearing gowns just because it takes place in the same location. They don't wear caps. They don't have tassels. They usually have ribbons. I don't recall there being ribbons last year.
Didn't have gowns last year.
Right. There's not the professional photographer there. It looks different, but I feel like this middle school class has missed out on their entire middle school experience. Not through any fault of our own necessarily, but there's no Springfield trip, no Washington trip, minimal to no athletics, 1 band concert, and now this ceremony, it's just like, okay, just remember, this is like when you went from 5th grade to 6th grade. Here's a little piece of paper, go by. It just feels a little too casual. These kids need something to look forward to, and honestly, their parents do too. And the tradition holds a deep place in my heart as well. And I'm disappointed in the lack of communication regarding not having gowns.
Yeah, I will say the tradition's definitely one, and as the one that had a child that went through the 8th grade promotion with the gowns, it's great. I know the one that I've got that will go through it this time has already told me he doesn't want a gown. He just wants to be in a suit, but that's not his choice, is it? So, but yeah, I think Annette, I was going to hear that, and then we'll get to Jennifer.
Yeah, I was just going to say, again, in the memo, it says that the gown reduces the level of distinction between high school and 8th grade. If the administration feels that, then I think we're losing focus and sight of what our job is. The gown is not does not distinguish the promotion ceremony or the high school graduation. There's a tradition in this community, and they're voicing their opinion, and we need to listen.
So I will mirror that what she has said. I did receive some feedback on it as well from some of my people in the community that were disappointed, and some of them didn't even have 8th graders. They were just like, "Oh no, why are they doing this?" But having had a child go through the ceremony with the gown and one without, I would just say that it's just something that's exciting. And for the one child that really loves school and lives for school, and the other one is just like, I'm lucky to get him there. It's like little things like that matter. Not to rant and rave, because I feel like our point has definitely been made, but I do think there's some value to it, and there's definitely a distinction between a graduation for high school and a graduation for 8th grade, just because it's like a basically a kind of an incentive for what's going to come, sort of, for the future. So just something to consider. But I would like to just cast my vote, not vote, but my thoughts on having it again if we could.
And I'll also throw in, I did speak with Ms. Larson before the meeting tonight, but since she was not going to be able to be here, and she's of the same. It's a tradition that the community has had. It's not an undue burden for us to do it. So she is along those same lines as well, and that's great. Like I said, I'm probably more on the other side, but again, I'm one of those funny people who just doesn't care. So I mean, it's fair, and at the same time, I do like tradition is a huge thing, and we owe that tradition to the community as well. So, you too.
I don't have a strong feeling either way, truthfully. I didn't realize it was that long of a tradition. I mean, I was disconnected from it. My two have been out for a few years now, so. But if that's the case with the community, because I haven't heard anybody or anything, but this is interesting to hear, so I can, favor both sides. I don't care, one way or the other, feel strongly. I don't care, but I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way with you there. Mr. Jip?
I was trying to recall, do I even remember the middle school graduations? And since mine are out, the only thing I remember is his goofy grin and his purple gown when he was trying to find his parents. Stand up, look around, take a picture of him. And so that's the only thing I remember is him. The other three, don't tell my daughters, I don't remember their middle school graduation, but it's his.
That's okay. We'll just send them the link to the video.
And honestly,
3 minutes, they will watch it.
I have I don't know why I have 3 gowns, but I have 3 gowns. I would be more than happy to donate them.
Did you promote somebody that you're not aware of?
Perhaps.
So I think the feedback is very clear. I think I don't know how else to say it. I don't think we accurately assessed the import. I think I've been pretty good at trying to, it's still, I feel like it hasn't been that long since I've been here, but it is 9 years, and I do understand the importance of the concept of tradition and culture and values in the community. And I think most of the time we bring things here in that space. I just think we didn't get this one right. So the good news is we've talked to Herff Jones. I think Dr. Rowling has heard loud and clear, given the board members that feel strongly, that want the gown feel strongly. The other ones could go either way. So it's pretty clear on what we'll do. Dr. Rowing, you're pretty clear? Yes?
Yes, I'll reach out to Herf Jones tomorrow.
Yep. And we'll get it done. And again, we will make every effort to provide the traditional colors. But I will say the goal here is to get them in time for the ceremony, and we're going to do anything and everything possible to do that. Any objections from board members? Frankly, the easiest thing for us to do would be to order and just pay for them, instead of trying to, for lack of a better term, hunt the fees down as we get closer to the end. Ms. McGinley, any objection to that?
No, I don't. Like I said, I just wish this would have brought to the board sooner. And then what communication is going to go to the families now?
I'll have Dr. Rowling connect with Ms. Bennett, probably after this board meeting. And then Ms. Bennett will send an update to the full board electronically regarding what the communication is going to be.
And how quickly are we looking at trying to get the communications out for the families?
Within the next 2 days.
Thank you. All right, I think we've pretty well beat this horse, so we are good on it. Any other questions in regards here? While Dr. Rowling's still up here, we will move on then to disposal materials. What are we throwing away this year?
To be honest, I can't remember what's on the list. I think it's some books, and that might be it this month.
Yep, exactly. Same stuff.
I passed the test then.
Woo woo. Any questions on the disposal materials? Hearing none, thank you very much. And next up is our strategic plan monthly report. Just a recap again. I'm so happy to be able to see colors. I'm a color person, so thank you. Any questions on the strategic plan? Anything you want to call out, Dr. Mendoza?
No, other than just a gentle reminder that Ms. Bennett, is the board aware that we did change the meeting? We're still working on, there's a conflict with the date we'd established with you for the year-end strategic plan update and next steps. So Ms. Bennett will be in touch with you, but you should expect a comprehensive year-end report with data, status report on all the initiatives. Teams worked really, really hard this year. It's been great to be open. And then obviously some of the facility challenges that we have moving forward, that will be a part of that.
And I apologize for that reschedule. That would be a late division that we're hosting here, kind of conflicted that. So I apologize that we're having to reschedule that one, but thank you.
I do have a question regarding the strategic plan.
Please go.
It's under teaching and learning, goal 2. It's the last bullet point. 5th grade students will be viewing videos produced by middle school administration and participation in learning activities to prepare them for middle school beginning on April 13th. And promotional videos for high school athletics are being produced. So it shows that it's green, so that is still moving forward?
Yes, both of those activities are moving forward.
We're making promotional videos for athletics?
Yeah, I spoke with Ms. Moran, I would say maybe 2 weeks ago, and she was working with Mr. West at the high school to put together some of these promotional videos. So they're working on them right now. They have not yet been released.
When is that release date?
I would have to get you that information, but I can certainly get that to you guys after I talk to Ms. Moran tomorrow.
Thank you.
Anything else on strategic planning?
I just had a general question. And it's just as an example. So let's say teach and learning goal 4. There's January was the last entry. There's a couple that go through. Is that Is that kind of more like pending, or how does that, or is it completed? Yeah, that's kind of how I.
Go ahead. Who's going to answer that? I could answer it, but go ahead, Beth.
I'd say this is something that's ongoing. As we work through the school improvement process, everyone is doing different things. They have, remember when we looked at all of their indicators under their goals, they all have different action steps. All of this is incorporated into that. So this is an ongoing process. So every month, a lot of the times we'd be repeating the same thing to give you an update. They're all working on these different things. Most of the schools are having the students prepare individual goals. All of this is working towards improving academic achievement. So it is ongoing. It is certainly not completely met, but it is ongoing.
And Mr. Jewett, that's actually a great example of how we could get to the end of the year and completed a bunch of work, but it's not going to be blue, because that will never end. So for example, February, March, April, May, I can guarantee you that the principals are meeting with their SIL teams and their PLCs to review map data, taking that data and driving their collaboration meetings to improve their strategies. So theoretically, what we could have done, and maybe this is something we can talk about at the end of the year, we could have put that same update for February and March with the same text. So I guess a green where there's a gap, when you have a green like that without additional dates after it, it basically doesn't mean we've stopped. There's just no new information.
Thank you.
But I do think maybe, team, we can think about that for future dashboards. Because without somebody who wouldn't know any better, somebody in the public went in there, they might just think, well, we haven't been doing anything for 3 months. So maybe, I don't have an answer for that right now. So, but if the team could think about it, maybe when we meet with the board at the end of the year, we could figure out some system, some coding system that would indicate that. So just something that we can bring back to you.
Just some kind of note, probably just to say, hey, this is still ongoing. It's in process. We're not dropping it, but it's.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the weeds, but I'm just trying to think that sometimes, so it's the development of the process and the process is continuing. So it's almost like, it's almost completion of the project. It's not necessarily completion of the work, but the project, from start to finish. But at the same time, part of it is the communication. So part of it is assuming that if it's, we don't want to assume that if it's nothing's coming and doesn't,
Well,
we
I
don't want to
think
assume that
part-
it's going to be done.
Part of our SIP monitoring, which we do 3 times, we present the SIP plans, we present monitoring. We just did, I don't know, a month or so ago, and we'll do it again at the end of the year. That is part of this process. I think, let it be known, every team in this district has PLCs, professional learning communities, and they meet every single morning, and all of the work that they do comes together at every school's SILT team. They have an academic and a behavior where they're going over all of this data. So they meet twice a month, each of those teams, and then once together to bring it all into their SIP. And that's our ongoing process. So maybe we break this down if there's high points from different schools. And that's one way maybe we could include it so you could see different things that might be changing on a more real-time basis as opposed to just SIP monitoring.
But I think the question is the right question. I just think between now and when we convene again, maybe including the board, can think about, maybe what would work better, and I'll have the team do the same thing. Because there are things that we literally turn blue, they're done. Like literally, we have that, but we also have a lot of the processes we establish are multi-year processes, they don't really end. But again, the goal, this monitoring document, is just to reinforce that we're working the plan. We're working toward, remember, these are all connected toward the goal. But that's absolutely the right question. And I understand why you would ask it for that and maybe even some of the other ones.
Any last questions? All right, next up is contracts under 1,000, and looks like we have nothing to report on contracts under 1,000. So next we will then move on to opportunities for public comment. And as always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that in all formats, speakers are limited to 3 minutes. A link to the electronic public comment form is on the website, and electronic public comments will be accepted up until the time the board reaches the public comment section of the meeting agenda, which is AKA now. Do we have any electronic public comments? Hearing none. Would ask if we have any public comment, but we don't even have any public anymore. So thank you to those who are online watching us tonight. And next up, we will move now from public comment into the superintendent's report. And Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and fellow board members. We'd like to thank our Educational Foundation for awarding 3 final grants this school year totaling $1,825. Melissa Moran from John T. McGee Middle School was awarded $675 for graffiti walls. At John T. McGee Middle School, art classes are done on a cart moving to different rooms. Having the space to display all the artwork is challenging. This activity is to provide traveling, self-standing wall art done in the style of street graffiti art. These would be group projects, also encouraging cooperation and teamwork. Katrina Cook was awarded $650. Katrina is at Ellis for the Outdoor Garden and School Beautification Project. The intention for this project is to add art to the outdoor garden area. The intent is to paint the flower beds and decorate the fences. It is a collaborative project to make decisions on appealing to the public while beautifying the outdoor space. James Bruno, who's at Round Lake Senior High School, was awarded $500 for college and career books for the College and Career Center. This grant will provide College and Career Center with books on test prep, college readiness, scholarships, and career preparation to empower student exploration of options and assistance for career preparation. Additionally, friends of a foundation member requested to fund one additional grant, $400 to James Trottier here at the high school for SEL Personal Reflection Journals. This grant will provide personal journals for student self-reflections. These are private journals that have designed class time for entry and time for sharing if the students choose. This strategy has been used and ranked by students as one of the most valuable activities. Would also like to update the board on the Round Lake Area Exchange Club Road Rally event. The Exchange Club will host its inaugural Road Rally, an event that will highlight 40 plus businesses and organizations across the Round Lake area on April 29th and 30th. Registration is free. Participants will be sent on a hunt for a variety of businesses and organizations during the 2-day event, visiting, learning about, and maybe purchasing products or services. At each stop, individuals will take a photo with a representative at the location, collect a raffle ticket. Tickets are then turned in at the Avon Township office for a drawing on Saturday evening. The grand prize is $500. Anyone interested in participating should register on the Exchange Club website at www.rlaexchange.org/road-rally. That concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions? All right, next up are committee reports. And first one is our Community Engagement Committee update.
Okay, so hello everybody. If you go ahead and look at the packet, you can see on the agenda, the first thing up is kind of the social media analytics. The first thing up is the social media research, and the trend continues. We are still leading with YouTube and Facebook for the most engagement on those websites. We were sort of discussing on the analytics, for example, obviously you can see the athletics gets a lot of hits. Theater doesn't as much, for example, but there's a smaller group of students or people involved in those. So it's comparable. They are actually growing. We did talk a little bit about the Instagram analytics and kind of the increases over those from the prior year, the annual increases. A lot of them are trending upward and doing much better. But it is in comparison to the years prior. So we were discussing, for example, Ellis had, I believe it was Ellis had a very large number of hits on one particular posts that they had. So they're always going to look like it's not growing, but they are trending on other social media platforms upward. So there does seem to be engagement improving in that. We did have a request from one of the board members to have the breakdown of the monthly posts. So you'll see that on page 6. There has been actually a remarkable increase in the athletics postings. So that's been a good improvement to see. And then they're kind of broken down, but we are merging 2 different systems. So grabbing reports was, I think, challenging or a little bit tricky. We are going to be transitioning over to Loomly. And then Heather was kind of going over some of the perks that Loomly is going to offer. For example, Loomly will make it easier to post it because you can go on and post all like on as many social platforms as you want, so you can do it all at once. There's an expectation of 2 posts per week. So sometimes we were discussing Instagram, for example, is not as, it's more photographic rather than like spoken word. So sometimes they won't want to include that, but they can, on Loomly, they can just hit it and it uploads all at once. We kind of discussed, you can schedule it out. There are templates for social media postings, tutorials, and then they have, hopefully they'll have reportings as well in the following years. So there's going to be a lot of things that will help us enhance the social medias with that Loomly platform. And that's going to be upcoming in this next school year.
Just a little bit of a clarification on the Loomly account. We do have that platform right now just for a 4-month trial.
Yeah.
And then we'll be bringing back for the full year agreement probably in May.
So, yes, thank you. I should have said that. But it's really, it looks like a really good program, to be frank. The way that it's tracked and the way that they can upload it, it looks like it's going to make it much simpler. And then the data analytics will be easier to pull, I think. So, that's kind of the summation of that. So the next one, and let me pull this up really quick. Bear with me. I should bring my mouse. The next one was the Round Lake Action Congress meeting. It was on March 24th. They had 95 students in grades 5 through 12 participate, and then in this particular event, they actually had 5 partners total from our community come in and join us. So we had Judy Armstrong from the Round Lake Area Exchange Club, Michelle Bauman from Avon Township, Gil Rivera from Round Lake Beach Police Department, and then from the Lake County Forest Reserve, we had April Vacos and Nicole Stocker. And then the final one was actually Liliana Nevarez. She was actually a graduate from our own high school in 2021. And she is one of the students that helped initiate the Spark Enrichment Program scholarship. The Spark Enrichment Scholarship Program. And so she wanted to continue being part of that. And what they did was they had this meeting, and then at the conclusion of the event, they had the students give their thoughts, share their thoughts on ways that we could help encourage community engagement and actually give us ideas for our civic course that's coming up in the following school year. So they gathered all of those thoughts that they had kind of put down in these sticky notes, and now they're going to basically categorize the notes and then kind of make them into like a roadmap for the following year. So it was evidently a very successful event. I had to miss it, so I was bummed out about it, but I heard actually a lot of good feedback from it from the community. So it looks like we have a lot of community partners that want to be involved in more than just like celebrations. Like Heather was mentioning, they have environmental enrichment programs, and there's a couple of things on the radar. So definitely was a rounding success, I think, on that one. So anything you want to add on that? No? Okay. The next one was the mascot logo redesign update. For that one, we actually kind of, my notes, sent out new ones, and we got feedback on them. So the feedback came back, and we're pretty much nailed down what we want on Beach, Ellis, Murphy, the Vikings. We're still kind of working on the Wildcats, McGee, and the EEC. And then Indian Hill is going to be up for discussion actually this year coming up. So we're looking forward to bringing those back when they're completed and finalized and getting, your guys' thoughts on it. But we saw it. If you look in the board packet, you can see the pictures and they look good. I think they have kind of a uniformity in between, like with them, and represents the schools nicely. So the community engagement session recap we actually tabled because we ran out of time, so we are going to bring that back. But I know Scott had some really good ideas that he wanted to discuss, and I definitely think it would be something that would benefit us hearing. So I think we are bringing that back to a meeting coming up.
Yeah, and in fact, I think so that we can accommodate that, we're probably gonna push back and give everybody who attended NSBA an extra couple weeks in order to be able to cycle through getting in your detailed takeaways from NSBA, getting that over to Heather so that they can be in the packet. So we're just gonna kind of push it back a couple weeks to allow community relations to have a shot at working with it. And then, of course, Miss Lee and Miss Negretti McGinley definitely hitting it up with those input as well.
So definitely looking forward to that. And then for the meeting schedule, we still have to revisit that actually because we've had, as you know, some issues with other things coming up with board activities. We want to just make sure that we were keeping community engagement at the forefront of everyone's mind and that it's recognized as an important committee. So sometimes we do push it, to different dates and stuff, but we're trying to get away from that. So we are going to convene on that one and discuss it further, and then we'll let you guys know the dates. Anything you guys want? Okay, that's all I got.
All right, thank you for that. Next up then is Finance Committee update.
Thank you. Finance met earlier today, and we had a little shorter agenda. On the agenda was the 1.0 FTE special ed teacher and 0.7 speech and language pathologist, which we'll see later on our board agenda. Next, we spoke of Organic Life. This is the contract renewal for the 23-24 school year. This is also the fourth of year 4 1-year extension that was mutually agreed upon. In the finance packet, you'll see the rates. It's about a 5% rate. When you look at it, you will see special milk. We don't do special milk here. This will come forward for renewal on the next board meeting of May 2nd. And there is possible legislation that Dr. Kibbins advised that we may not need to go out to bid or take the lowest bid. And as that information evolves, we'll bring that back to the board. Next on the agenda, we had Dude Solutions contract. This again will come in the next board meeting of May 2nd. School Dude is what our maintenance staff, custodians, department technicians utilize for internal, external environments and scheduling of events. We have moved this to a multi-year contract, giving us significant savings that will total $21,847.81. Next, we spoke about the high school AV technology issue. Back when we did the addition in the science rooms, which is the C wing, as you know, we always had technology issues that was never really resolved with the architect Fanning and Howie. And we had tried to address this in years prior, but other priorities, and then the year of COVID, this kind of got pushed back. We are now wanting to move forward with that. There is a proposal for $101,000, and we will be using ESSER grant to address the technology issues. There also is an extended warranty that Dan will be looking at. So we will be bringing this back on May 2nd with a final cost of the contract and possibly the extended warranty. Next is the recycling of obsolete technology equipment, the iPads. Again, in the packet, you'll see the breakdown and the cost of the iPads. We are using what it's showing in there, what will be the cost for our 4th, 8th, and 12th graders, which will be $80 for each iPad that they want to purchase. Those iPads that are obsolete, or again, we want to resell, the prices in there. It's $65 for the iPad 5th generation, $80 for the iPad 6th generation, and for those iPad Air 2s out there, it's $30. If they're not working, it's $7, $8, $3 respectively. And again, this will come forward on May 2nd. Next, we got an update on the theater and stadium sound system. The theater sound system, again, we approved SPL, sounds production and lighting. We are in the phase of the April and July timeframe where it's equipment procurement. The stadium, the sound is being completed. They did a final walkthrough and an issue was discovered with the cable. They're coming back Friday to correct that. And when that's corrected, we will be good to go for graduation. And then what's not on the agenda, but I did want to bring to the board's attention, is our bond refunding. The board previously had approved that parameters resolution with the minimum savings of 2%. Tomorrow, Thursday, April 19th is when we can act on that. If we still meet that minimum of 2% savings, we're thinking it's about 2.1% savings. It would be a savings to the district of $784,000, and we won't know until tomorrow about 3 o'clock. As long as we meet that 2% minimum, the board will continue to move forward. If it does fall below that 2%, then the process is over. We would revisit it at a later time.
Ms. McKinley, this is Dr. Mendoza. Just to clarify, that $786,000, that's savings to the taxpayer, is that correct?
Correct, $784,000 would be part of that refund, that bond refunding.
Thank you.
So we're hoping tomorrow we can put it out in the weekly of where this falls. And that is it for finance, unless Mr. DeVera wants to add anything.
I do not, thank you.
He's not the best in the business for nothing. All right, hearing nothing else then, thank you very much for that great recap on Finance Committee update. And now I will open it up for some approval of open meeting minutes.
All right, I need a motion to approve the April 11th, 2022 special meeting expulsion hearing meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
And motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the April 11th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the accounts payable report in the amount of $944,615.14. The previous motions report for $171,706.20. The March 2022 Treasurers Report, the March 2022 P-Card Report, the April 18th, 2022 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Miss Lee. Before we move on that, just a quick one. I think we also have another approval of minutes C that we may have skipped over.
Yes, we can go back to that after this.
Thank you. Perfect. We have the motion and the second, so roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
And the motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the April 12th, 2022 special board meeting, board governance self-evaluation meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Miss Lee. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Abstain.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
And motion carries, which now brings us to introduction of new administration. I was starting to wonder about that one.
She's confused. All right. Normally, I have a bio and everything, but I didn't think that was super necessary at this point. So I want to introduce tonight two new positions, but not two new people. Dr. Kurt Rolling will become our Assistant Superintendent for Leadership and School Improvement. And Dr. Lisa Steffen will become our Assistant Superintendent for Learning and Innovation. So we'll talk a little bit about Kurt first. You guys have seen him many, many times. What you might not know, though, is that Kurt is a aficionado of the jazz choir and will often regale us with stories and dance moves from his time in the dance choir. But Kurt is a graduate of Concordia University and earned his doctorate through Aurora University. Aren't you impressed?
I am.
I know. He's been in the district for 4 years. And he's been honestly like a breath of fresh air for us, not just his humor, but also just, being able to think outside the box, provide, different points of view, comes at it from, different maybe districts he's worked before, but also just creativity. So there's a lot of things about Kurt I think that are surprising. And one of those things is definitely how creative Kurt is, just his thinking. So I always appreciate that. And one of my favorite things about Kurt, though most people might not realize this, is Kurt is always willing to be the person who disagrees, right? Who, even if like the whole room is like, yes, we're championing an idea, if he really believes that it's not the right thing, he will stand up and he will say, let's hold on, guys, let's talk about this. These are some things that we need to think about, which on a team the size of the one I have is super important. When there's 20 people saying yes, you sometimes need the one person who says no to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So that Kurt does that.
On the other hand, we have Lisa, and this is, I've known Lisa, we've known each other for almost 20 years. We started actually in this school district together. I was a social studies teacher at the high school, and Lisa was a Spanish teacher. We had a great affinity for each other from the beginning because I think I said this in the meeting, but we share the same values, but we don't think alike. So it's actually a really tremendous gift to have somebody around you who cares about the things you care about, but gets at it maybe in a different way, because it grows you as a person and makes you stronger as a leader. And Lisa's always done that for me. So Lisa, even though she grew up in Minnesota, she went to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire for her undergraduate, and then we actually pursued our doctoral program together at Concordia University, graduated together with funny hats and everything. And Lisa, I think, as you know, has worked at the high school, then worked at McGee, and is now at the central office. She's a Spanish speaker, which is always wonderful and amazing. And she is, one of the most persistent and focused and caring people I have ever met. And in all cases, Round Lake is lucky to have both of these individuals, working here and as the new assistant superintendents. So please welcome them.
You got about 10 seconds each before I make my comment. Go ahead.
All
We'll
right,
give you
I would
15.
just real quick like to say today's kind of like a fun day to get this. It's been a great day in Round Lake. Just Amy Maplethorpe is a former student. I knew her family really well. Her dad is the reason I was able to adopt my daughter because he was our notary. So great to see a former student and just a family presenting to the board was super exciting. And also we interviewed 3 teachers from Spain today. Being part of that international teacher program was just a super cool experience, and they all went really well. So a good day to be in Round Lake, and I couldn't be more excited about this opportunity.
Well, she said something, so I guess I have to also. I'm just excited to continue my career here in Round Lake. I've absolutely loved the last 4 years. I think this is definitely a home for me. So the opportunity to grow and develop more is something I'm really happy to have at this time. So thank you.
So just just want to inform the board. We put Kurt and Lisa through very comprehensive interview. I was a part of it, the executive council. I think they both agree. We asked a lot of questions. For me personally, it was important that they understood they needed to interview as if maybe they didn't know the team interviewing them, right? So we wanted them to prepare. The other thing that Dr. Center touched on, which is really important, we have a lot of divergent thinkers on the team. Personally, as a superintendent, I have blind spots, and I don't want people around me that say yes to everything, and I want people that think differently and actually challenge me in my thinking, and I think we have that. For example, I'm looking around the room, and I won't get into detail, but I know if we did a Myers-Briggs or a True Colors, we'd have people in a variety of areas. There's people you wouldn't think on the team that are introverts, which they are, but they've overcome that, and kind of that's what leadership is about. So the other thing that became very clear, that was very clear with Lisa and Kurt, is that they love the district. To me, that is one of the most important attributes for any of our team members is they support the cause, they love the blue and gold, they love our kids, they love the community. And so, I just couldn't think of 2 better people for this role. Kurt and Lisa, as well as Dr. Kibbins, will now be sitting on cabinet with me. And so our first meeting is tomorrow morning at like 9:30, bright and early. So just really grateful for the team. They did a great job in the interviews. And we have a really talented group of people. So just wanted to make sure you knew we vetted them properly and feel very good about it.
So you got promoted to a new meeting.
Shh, don't tell her.
They already accepted, so it's All right, then next up, we are to old business and the approval of the revised school calendar.
I need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 revised school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Any questions in regards to the calendar? Hearing none, roll call please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
And in the vein to all the students who are hoping that we would not revise it, we have an approved calendar for next year. All right, next up is board committee assignments, liaison assignments, and the proposed committee meeting schedule. I did not hear from anybody. Sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I didn't hear from anybody in regards to taking me to task for my suggestions for sticking with where we're at. So we will definitely go with the same appointments as we had talked about last week when it comes to chairs, representatives, and committee assignments. And the calendar is inside of the documentation here. So anybody have any questions in regards to that before we get to the motion? Thank you.
Right, I need a motion to approve the board committee appointments, liaison assignments, and the 2022-2023 proposed committee meeting schedule as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any additional questions? Oh, no, Lee. Sorry, I didn't. Who was the second? Lee. Okay, sorry. Seconded by Ms. Lee. Sorry, my fault. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
And we have it so approved. All right, next up is new business, and the first up on that is our IHSA membership renewal. I vote we start playing in Wisconsin, but that's a different story.
So this is our annual IHSA renewal. We brought this last year with a fee structure that the IHSA had brought forward. However, we are excited to share that they will be actually refunding half of our fees from this year, and they will not be moving forward with fees because they were able to recoup the income that they normally would get through their state series and other events. So essentially, this is the renewal for that allows our students to participate in IHSA activities.
I need a motion to approve the renewal of our membership with the Illinois High School Association.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mrs. McKinley,
Yes.
And motion carries. All right, next up is the approval of the proposed schedule for regular meeting dates for the 22-23 school year. Any questions in regards to the dates on the calendar? Hearing none.
Right, I need a motion to approve the proposed schedule of regular meeting dates for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
And much to our own chagrin, like the students, now we have meeting dates. So approved.
I would like to ask the board to approve the increase of a 1.0 FTE special education teacher for Round Lake Transition Center, a 0.5 district speech and language pathologist, which will help with the assistive tech, the presentation you saw this evening, and a 0.2 increase in speech and language pathologist at the EEC. All of this we had requested in the budget assumptions of a 2.0, and this would be a 1.7.
Let's look at that. They did all that, and they also did it also that it looks really good and makes it really hard for us not to vote for it.
And just a brief follow-up comment to highlight what Ms. Mari said is this budget amount has already been reflected in the budget assumptions, and also this is like mandated. So we want to make sure we follow the law with special ed and that kind of thing. So you've always been super supportive of it. Just appreciate what we saw tonight. It was really just incredible. And then, Ms. McGinley, this was reviewed at finance, correct?
Correct. Yes. We discussed this at finance. And finance supports it.
Excellent. Thank you. So do we have a motion?
I need a motion to approve the increase of 1.0 FTE special education teacher, an increase of 0.7 speech and language pathologist.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. De Vera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
And motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up is positive occurrences. Time to have some fun.
I have one. So I believe the girls soccer team played, and I believe it was a total shutout. Is that what they call it? They won 8-0.
They call that a shutout.
A shutout, right? Okay. I'm still learning the lingo, but it was supposed to be. I was excited when I saw it online. So.
I got to watch the boys' home opener baseball last Monday. Was it Monday? A little bit of it. I haven't been to a high school baseball game since 2019. I was missing it. It was good to see them out there playing again.
And I was at Saturday's Wheeling game that we hosted Wheeling here. Again, great to see them out. Great to be on the fields.
We, I think you already know, but I call it out, a coding error in EBF. At least that's what it was called. We are due an increase in our EBF this year between now and the end of the year. And what's important about that is part of our base funding minimum, so it's not a one-time shot. So that will be reflected as revenue, additional revenue on the budget assumptions when we bring that back in May. We just got the letter late Thursday afternoon, so I think I had asked Pam 3 days before that if we were one of the districts, but we ended up getting the letter, so that's positive. It's really positive for the community.
Is there anything retro in that, or was that the first time it was discovered?
I actually don't know how they found it, but it was an overpayment, probably $75 million to the city of Chicago, the Chicago Public Schools for, I think it was. So I don't think it was a single year because of the way the EBF is calculated, but there was some type of coding error. They redid the calculation. We were one of the districts that were shorted. And so that's just, we'll take it for sure. So.
Yeah, let me know once the check clears.
I've got one to continue with the special education theme. So my son is in Transitions, which is a job training program. Since he's been 8 years old, and since Jewel Osco has been doing the cookie and banana program. So when you bring your kids in, you get coupon banana cookie. It hooked him. And he's been wanting to work at Jewel Osco since 8 years old. And tomorrow he has an interview. Thank you to the Transitions program.
Yay.
They have no idea what they're in store. And it is completely initiated by them and the program and Jim Ross and the group there. A+. Yeah, we're not going to be able to shop anywhere else now. Now we have to just go to Jewel. So sorry, Aldi. Well, we'll see after Tuesday. Maybe we're still anyway.
Any other positive occurrences that want to get up?
Really quick, just point out May 4th is the Educator of the Year, and we have people. So, just so you guys know.
May the 4th be with you. Yes, we know.
That's pretty.
All right, next up, future agenda items. We'll quickly jump right over those.
Just real quick, you expect an email out tomorrow with dates for the Tech Campus visit. It'll be, I've spoke with the executive director, and it'll probably be like an early evening situation. So, somewhere around 5 o'clock, 5 to 6, somewhere in there. There won't be any students there, but it'll give you an opportunity to walk around. It's a really, really neat place. And just grateful that they're going to accommodate us.
And it's not next week, right?
No. What I meant is it's not necessarily next week. I'll send out dates like within the next 2 days with the options, and then you can see what works for you, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then now we are to the approval of closed session minutes.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of March 14th, 2022 special meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes. And motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of the March 14th, 2022 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
And motion carries. All right, next up is I'll need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following. Employment matters 5 ILCS 120/2 C1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
And motion carries, so we will now convene in closed session. For those online tonight, thank you very much for watching and attending. We look forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks when we come back again, and that will convene us for open session tonight and in the meeting. Thank you.